Imagine waking up with a strange certainty sitting heavy in your chest. Today, you will eat only once. Not because food is scarce, not because you forgot, but because you chose it. The kitchen feels quieter than usual. No sizzling pan, no comforting smell of toast or tea, just silence and a question that feels almost dangerous. Why does this feel so hard? Why does the simple act of not eating trigger anxiety before your body has even asked for food? Hidden beneath that discomfort is a biological story far older than modern life, a story your body still remembers, even if your mind has forgotten. From childhood, we are trained to fear hunger. Breakfast is called essential. Snacks are framed as survival tools. Skipping meals is treated like a personal failure or a health risk waiting to happen. But none of these rules shaped human biology. They shaped modern routines. For most of human history, food was unpredictable. Our ancestors didn't eat because the clock said so. They ate when food was found, and they waited when it wasn't. That rhythm of feast and pause carved itself into our cells. What if eating once a day isn't unnatural, but deeply familiar to your biology? The idea sounds extreme because we live in abundance. Food is everywhere, always available, constantly tempting. Yet abundance is new. Scarcity is ancient. When you decide to eat once a day, you are not just skipping meals, you are sending a signal to your body that echoes across thousands of generations. A signal that says, prepare, adapt, become efficient. And the moment that signal is sent, changes begin. Quietly at first, then profoundly, reshaping how your body and mind operate together. The first few hours feel uncomfortable, even dramatic. Your stomach growls loudly, almost aggressively. Your thoughts drift toward food without permission. This isn't weakness, it's chemistry. Ghrelin, the hormone responsible for hunger signals, surges, pushing your brain to seek food urgently. This reaction evolved to keep humans alive in the wild, where hunger could mean danger. But here's the twist. This surge isn't endless. It peaks, then fades, even if you don't eat. Hunger comes in waves, not a straight line. As time passes, something unexpected happens. The urgency softens, the noise quiets. Your body realizes that food is not arriving on schedule, and instead of spiraling into panic, it switches strategy. Hormones begin to shift, energy systems reorganize. Instead of slowing down, many people feel more alert, more present. It feels counterintuitive, but it's intentional. When food was scarce, our ancestors needed clarity and focus to survive, not fatigue. Hunger became a sharpening tool, not a weakening one. This experience forces an uncomfortable realization. How often do we eat because we are truly hungry, and how often do we eat because it's time, because we're bored, stressed, or seeking comfort? Modern hunger is tangled with emotion and routine. When you remove constant eating, those layers become visible. The brain rebels, not because the body is starving, but because it misses the familiar dopamine hits that food provides. Eating has become stimulation as much as nourishment. Over time, this relationship begins to change. Studies show that within a few days of fasting routines, ghrelin patterns adjust. Hunger signals become clearer and more honest. You start to recognize the difference between real hunger and habitual craving. This awareness is powerful. It gives you control instead of fear. Hunger stops feeling like an emergency and starts feeling like information, a signal you can observe rather than obey blindly. As hours pass without food, your blood sugar begins to fall. The body responds calmly, releasing stored glucose from the liver to maintain balance. You don't crash because your body planned for this, but glucose stores are limited. When they begin to decline, a deeper shift begins. The body turns inward, accessing stored fat for fuel. This is metabolic flexibility in action, the ability to switch fuel sources smoothly. It's a skill many modern bodies have forgotten. Fat burning is not a punishment state, it's a survival state.
Your body stored fat precisely for moments like this. When you eat once a day, you're not forcing fat loss, you're allowing it. Insulin levels drop, and with them, inflammation begins to settle. Cells stop receiving constant storage commands and start repairing. Many people describe this moment as their body finally exhaling after years of metabolic noise. Insulin is one of the most powerful hormones in your body. Every time you eat, it rises, telling cells to store energy. When you eat frequently, insulin rarely rests. Over time, cells become less responsive, leading to insulin resistance and metabolic dysfunction. Eating once a day gives insulin a long break. Sensitivity improves, energy regulation becomes smoother. This is why controlled fasting is being studied for reversing early metabolic disease. The transition isn't always smooth. In the beginning, fatigue, irritability, and dizziness are common. Your body is relearning how to function without constant input. This phase feels uncomfortable because adaptation always does. But once the switch completes, many people report steadier energy and fewer crashes. Instead of relying on constant food, the body learns to manage itself again, just as it was designed to do.
Deep inside your cells, mitochondria respond to this shift. These tiny energy factories adapt to burning fat instead of sugar. Fat produces energy more efficiently and with fewer damaging byproducts. Over time, this improves cellular health and resilience. Scientists believe this may be one reason fasting is linked to slower aging and reduced disease risk. It's not magic, it's efficiency restored. As fat burning increases, the liver produces ketones. These molecules become a powerful fuel source for the brain. Unlike glucose, ketones provide steady energy without sharp spikes. Many people report mental clarity, emotional calm, and sustained focus during this phase. The brain, often portrayed as fragile without sugar, reveals its adaptability. It thrives when given the right conditions. This mental shift can feel life-changing. The constant background chatter about food fades. Meals stop dominating your thoughts. Hunger becomes quieter, manageable, almost respectful. This psychological freedom is one of the most underestimated effects of eating once a day. You realize how much mental space food occupied and how much clarity emerges when that space is freed. Around 16 to 20 hours into fasting, something remarkable begins at the cellular level. Autophagy activates. This is the body's internal recycling system, breaking down damaged proteins and worn-out components to build new, healthier ones. Autophagy is essential for cellular health and longevity. When food is constantly available, this process is suppressed. Eating once a day gives it room to operate. This isn't a surface-level cleanse, it's deep repair. Cells finally have time to clean themselves, improving function and resilience. The discovery of autophagy earned a Nobel Prize because of its importance in preventing disease. When this process slows, conditions like cancer and neurodegeneration become more likely. Fasting doesn't guarantee protection, but it supports the systems that defend your body from within. While these changes happen quietly, their effects accumulate. Better cellular function means better organ health, better immune response, and potentially a longer health span. This is why fasting is studied not just for weight loss, but for longevity. It shifts the body's priorities from constant digestion to maintenance and repair. The brain changes as well. Fasting increases levels of BDNF, a protein that supports neuron growth and connection strength. Higher BDNF is linked to better learning, memory, and emotional resilience. This may explain why many people feel mentally sharper and calmer during fasting. The brain is not being deprived, it's being challenged in a way that promotes growth. There is also a psychological discipline forming beneath the surface. Choosing not to eat teaches patience. It shows you that discomfort is temporary, that urges rise and fall. This skill carries into other areas of life: stress, impulse control, emotional regulation. Fasting becomes more than a physical practice, it becomes mental training. But this path is not without risks. Eating once a day is powerful, and power requires responsibility. Some bodies struggle with low blood pressure, nutrient deficiencies, or hormonal imbalances. Women may experience menstrual disruptions. Athletes may struggle to meet protein and calorie needs in a single meal. Mental health can also be affected if control turns into obsession. Food is not just fuel, it is culture, connection, and comfort. When fasting becomes rigid or fear-driven, it loses its benefit. Science is clear on this. Fasting works best when used flexibly and mindfully. It is a tool, not a rule. Balance matters more than extremes. For people with insulin resistance, inflammation, or metabolic syndrome, controlled fasting can be transformative. Research from major institutions shows improvements in blood sugar, inflammation markers, and metabolic health. But for those with diabetes, thyroid conditions, or eating disorders, fasting may be dangerous without medical guidance. Biology is personal. What heals one body may stress another. Longevity research continues to point toward metabolic rest as a key factor in healthy aging. Animal studies show extended lifespan with caloric restriction. Human data suggests improved mitochondrial health and delayed disease onset. Fasting doesn't stop time, but it may slow the damage that accelerates aging. It gives the body more time to repair than to process. There is also a deeper, almost philosophical shift that occurs. The first meal after a day of fasting tastes different, richer, more satisfying. Gratitude replaces routine. You eat with awareness instead of distraction. Hunger transforms the act of eating into an experience again, not just a habit. Ancient cultures understood this intuitively. Long before science explained ketones or autophagy, fasting was practiced for clarity and healing. Philosophers, monks, and healers recognized its power. Hunter-gatherers lived in cycles of feast and wait, a rhythm aligned with nature. That rhythm still exists inside you, even if modern life has drowned it out. When you fast, you don't just feel different, you feel connected to your ancestors, to your instincts, to a time when the body was trusted to adapt. Eating once a day is not about punishment or denial, it's about remembering what your body already knows how to do. If your body could speak after a day without food, it wouldn't beg, it would thank you. It would say it finally had time to repair, to rebalance, to rest from constant stimulation. But it would also warn you to stay wise, to use fasting as a tool, not an identity. Harmony, not extremes, is the path evolution favors. Eating once a day can awaken dormant systems, sharpen the mind, and restore metabolic flexibility. But it must be guided by awareness and care. Fasting is not about fighting hunger, it's about understanding it. It teaches you that nourishment begins long before the first bite. So the real question isn't whether you can eat once a day, it's whether you're willing to listen to what your body says when you stop feeding it constantly. Hunger is not the enemy we were taught to fear. Sometimes it's a teacher, reminding us that the human body is far more adaptable, intelligent, and resilient than modern life allows us to believe.